Hello and welcome to Undercommon Taste. This is a podcast where we create and discuss homebrew content for tabletop RPGs.
All journeys have a secret destination of which the traveler is unaware.
I'm Ian Woodworth. I'm joined by my co-host James Daly, and today we are joined by returning guest Clark Rowenson. Clark, welcome back to Undercommon Taste.
Thanks for having me. It's always good to see you guys.
Yes, thank you.
And so we invited you back because we like talking to you, but also because you have a trilogy of books that's about to come out, a trilogy of LitRPG books. And so we invited you on to talk about that a little bit and to talk a little bit about LitRPG in general, because it is a newer genre. It is something that doesn't have a whole lot of breadth to it yet. So it's nice to find somebody who is in the middle of it all that we can pick your brain and get a little bit of info on that. So as I said, you are a returning guest. So if anybody remembers forever ago now, we had you on when you were promoting your crowdfunding campaign for the Magic System Blueprint.
Yes.
You were also in our first anniversary actual play game.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
That was.
Good
aside from, the inadvertent hour of shopping at the beginning because we didn't handle that before stream. The things that you learn doing podcasts for 5 years.
Exactly.
So anyway, Clark, in case we have listeners who weren't here when you were on last, can you give us a brief introduction, who you are, what you do, what material you got, and what your current project is?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, I am Clark Rowenson. On the book, it is C.R. Rowenson. I'm also on YouTube as the Magic Engineer. My big thing is I talk about magic systems, or reality plus systems, as I've started calling them. So magic, advanced tech, monsters, weird stuff about your world, anything that's stepping beyond reality. I'm here for it, and I'm a freelance writing coach, and I help people with all kinds of stuff, but the reality plus is kind of my specialty. But I help people with all kinds of things, world building, character stuff. If anything is feeling more difficult than it should, I like helping people out. When it comes to the Reality Plus, I'm a huge freaking nerd about it. I like breaking it down. I like helping people work through building it. I have 2 books out on that. One is the Magic System Blueprint, and the other one is a workbook called Restrictions May Apply, which is specifically designed to take you through exercises to help you build interesting limitations and restrictions for your Reality Plus system. And then there's the new books that are going to be coming out, which are going to be my first published fiction books that I am co-authoring with Michael Anderle, and they are a LitRPG series. The series is called New Eternity, and book 1 is Spawn Point, and I'm very excited.
That's a great name for a first book of a series. To hear Spawn Point, I love it.
Obviously. Where else would you start?
Exactly.
I was so surprised it hadn't been taken.
No, I just absolutely love the concept of that totally draws you in right there. Here is the beginning. It's beautiful. It's well done.
Thank you. I was very pleased when I finally hit on that one. I'm like, yeah, this is great. And nobody's done it apparently. So here we go.
Now, that is surprising.
Yeah.
With all of the nerds that are writing LitRPG books, not one of them settled on that one.
It might have been done since we started the project, or it might have been done and I just couldn't find it easily, but I couldn't find it easily. So
yeah, that is one of the limitations of independent publishing, is that a lot of indie authors don't have the skill set to really promote their books, and it makes it very difficult to find.
Yes, and that's part of why I'm very happy and very lucky that I was able to do this co-authoring, because we are going through a small independent publisher. Well, I say small, they've done thousands of books, but there's an actual publisher, which is why the cover is so amazing. And so I'm lucky on that, and they're going to be helping with some of the marketing. I'm still going to be doing as much of my own as I can, which is part of why I'm here. I like talking with you guys, and I have a book, so there you go.
Yeah,
hey, win-win.
So
go in. Go. Take it.
My turn.
No.
So we're throwing around this term LitRPG a lot. for the uninitiated, can you give a brief breakdown of what is Lit RPG and how it's different from, say, a traditional fantasy or science fiction book, or a book that is based in the world of a game, like with canon characters within a game?
Yeah. So Lit RPG is your standard genre fiction, except the game mechanics are on display in the story. Like that's the bare bone rules, and that can manifest in a lot of ways. But some of the best examples are, if anybody has read any of the Legend of Dritz by R.A. Salvatore, all that's missing is D&D character sheets. Like if you were going through and we got to see what Drit's stats were, we got to see his character class, we got to see his level, and we got to see his inventory, that's Lit RPG. If you took the D&D movie and they were talking about their stats and their class bonuses and, oh, I have X number of items that I can attune to, that's Lit RPG. One movie that did come out, Free Guy with
Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
I was blanking on that with Ryan
I was
Reynolds.
like, it's the Mint Mobile guy.
Yeah.
That is also very Lit RPG. So it's a broad spectrum, because you can have stuff where you have people who are in the real world and in a game. People might just be in a game. They might be in a world that has some kind of magic system controlling how people level up and advance. Like all of these things are part of Lit RPG. It really just is whether the game mechanics of how something works is discussed in the text of the novel.
So this may be a subjective question, but a very popular trope, especially in anime, is the players getting trapped in the game. Would you consider that to be Lit RPG, or would that be considered a different subgenre?
So Sword Art Online is Lit RPG.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
And there's those gray lines. It really is the kind of thing where if I just show up in the world and now it's just a world and there's familiar stuff, but not necessarily the game mechanics, the experience, the leveling, and that kind of thing, then it's more of a portal fantasy, maybe an isekai, than Lit RPG. And you can cross those over. Like you can have a portal fantasy that takes you into a world that has Lit RPG rules. You can have isekai into Lit RPG is a very common trope. It's like a subgenre. But yeah, it really is about things like you pick up an item and you're able to look at its damage and durability. You're able to look at yourself and go through character advancements and say, I'm going to increase my strength and I'm going to increase my intelligence. Having that stuff deliberately in the book, that makes it Lit RPG. And it does get very close and can get a little murky when you're talking about things like game lit and cultivation and other kinds of progression fantasy. But we don't have to get into all of that detail if we don't want to.
Yeah.
But it's mostly if you see the mechanics.
Yeah, I read a series years ago, and for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the series, but it very much was that isekai into Lit RPG where the main character is answering. I can't remember if it was an actual like newspaper ad. Again, it was a long time ago, or if it was like an online ad, but he goes to this place and he basically gets teleported and realizes that he is now a mage in this world. So he's sitting there trying to figure out his spell list, his spell slots, his score and things like that. And so like he gets to the point where he realizes he has spell slots. And so now he's putting thought into, okay, I can cast a spell, but I'm going to need a spell slot later today before I get a chance to rest. And so he's trying to balance all of that out. So yeah, and it was a great story. So I'm really looking forward to seeing yours, because a book like that, I think that's the only series like that I've read, and so more of that I would be totally in for. Yeah.
And the way Lit RPG was originally pitched to me, and I think it's a great pitch for the subgenre, is if you're a gamer and you like video games or tabletop RPGs and you wish you had more time to play, good Lit RPG stories will scratch that same itch in your brain.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I could totally get that. Yeah.
If you're not sure, give it a try.
Yeah, not only that, but if you're the kind of person that likes to watch actual play videos.
Yeah.
Like if you like to watch videos on YouTube of other people playing video games.
Yes.
Lit RPG would be right up your alley.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I love that. So we have that. We have a Lit RPG, but what kind of genre or what was your big game inspiration, I say, for Spawn Point? What kind of system are we basing off of?
Yeah. So it is a fantasy Lit RPG. Okay. And so part of the reason I got into this co-author opportunity is because of all of my work with Reality Plus and Magic Systems, because I ended up getting to talk with Michael, and he's like, "Are you interested in LitRPG?" Said, "Absolutely." Said, "Great. I don't want to deal with the RPG stuff. You do, you do the Magic System, you do the RPG."
I've got a story. You do mechanics.
So, and the main inspirations that I really got is it's more cultivation than LitRPG, but it's an interesting blend. There's the He Who Fights with Monsters series by Shirtaloon, or Travis, I don't remember his last name. But He Who Fights with Monsters, I absolutely love how the power system works in that series. And then there's the City of Mist RPG, which I believe is based on Powered by the Apocalypse, but I'm not positive on that.
It's either PBTA or Fate. It came off of one of those two.
Or maybe blended the two. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But those are the two main points of inspiration. And I really did kind of just mash them together into something that I thought would be fun and cool. Because what I really like about City of Mist is City of Mist works off of a tag system, and then it kind of leaves it up to the players to do things that they think fall within the scope of those tags. So things like Bastion is one, about defense and guarding and that kind of thing. He Who Fights with Monsters has kind of a similar approach where they have these high-level concepts, and those become core parts of your character class, basically. And for them, it's the essence stones. And they can be any object, theme, creature. So there's characters who have like dragon essence or volcano essence, and like earth and fire and water, or the main character ends up with dark, blood, and sin, which once you get 3, they then combine into a 4th. And so his 4th one was the doom essence. And then you get other awakening stones that grant you abilities related to your specific essences. And I just really liked the thematic nature of both of them. So I combined that, and it's very similar. But what I wanted to add is I was just thinking about what would I really love in a game or in a tabletop RPG if we just take complexity off the table and just like, what do I think would be cool? I always liked the idea of something where the options that you had evolved naturally from the actions you took, both in terms of what you were doing and why you were doing it and how you did things. Because then that would deal with some of the problematic players, where they're like, I'm a paladin, now let's go burn down the orphanage, right? Because if you're doing that, you're going to stop getting options for things that would make you more paladin-like, and you're going to start getting things that make you more of an arsonist firebug.
Yeah.
So the whole concept
depends on what kids are in the orphanage. I mean,
I suppose that is fair. So it's very similar to those two, where in the system it operates on themes. And as you go through and you reach milestones, the system presents you with a variety of theme options based on what you have done since your last milestone. Okay. And then you pick which ones you want to be your primary. That forms your character class, and so on and so forth. So it's very much inspired by City of Mist and He Who Fights with Monsters, plus some things that I wish could work in a video game. But that kind of reactivity, very complex to program.
No, right. I like that. And you were mentioning that, and it reminds me of the game series from the early 2000s. I believe it was Dungeon Siege by Microsoft. And they had a similar build to that, where like the skills you used were what you leveled up, which was great at the time. And then depending on what skills you leveled up, you could go into classes or whatnot. So yeah, if you were smashing stuff with swords or axes, you didn't really get a whole lot of magical options because your character was focused. And I love that character building mechanic, and you don't see it. And it was very well done.
Yes, I played a lot of those games. But yeah, that's where a lot of the core inspiration came from. And it's a fun way where your personality and stuff can come through. So the main character, she's kind of a plant nut. She's a plant geek. So she gets into the new world and starts examining the plants and picking flowers and stuff like that. So one of the early options that she gets is the flora theme. And she's like, oh, yes, I'm taking that. I am taking that. And it ends up being fundamental to her character class. And so I really enjoyed playing with stuff like that.
Cross my fingers for a bog witch. Come on, bog witch.
So on the topic of your protagonist, one of the things that I picked up, because you sent us the link to the Amazon pre-order page, and it has a brief synopsis on it. And one of the things that I noticed is that the protagonist of your book, I believe she's in her 40s. Is that correct?
She just passed 40 when the book starts.
Okay. Which that is substantially older than you commonly see protagonists in these books. I mean, to the point where she is basically old enough to be the common protagonist's mother.
Yeah.
So I guess where I'm getting at is, why did you decide to have an older protagonist? And is it just because, everyone sitting here none of us are 18 anymore, and so we have more life experience to draw from, and creating an older character just makes sense?
Millennials need an immersion.
That was definitely part of it, was looking at it, and it was a lot of younger people. You do have some people who are maybe in their later 20s, but we have a lot of millennial gamers, older millennial gamers, and it's part of it was just sort of a representation thing. Another thing is it's been interesting to bring in some of that life experience as she's going through it. We really tried not to be heavy-handed with it, but that was kind of the main thing. And let's be honest, the first thing she does is she ends up making an avatar that looks closer to 30 than to 40, because why wouldn't you get rid of the aches and pains and go back a little bit? But she's still like, no, I'm not going back to 20s. Why would I do that?
That's the reason why I play Blood Elves in World of Warcraft. Why not?
Yeah, it's really just a representation thing. And I do think it allows for both some character awareness and reactions in some different ways, but also means that there are some character flaws that are a little deeper set as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I like that. There was an old series I read forever ago. Was it Thomas the Unbeliever? Thomas coming at the end, but the main character of that was older too. And yeah, so I mean, with that, he does bring in some of that life experience. And as an older millennial, you do sit back and if I could make different choices at the time, or things that seem so simple, and then looking as an older adult now, and you have things don't work that way. And so, yeah, reading a book where the characters, 12, 13, 15, 18, 20, and it's like the world is so fresh and new, and then coming from middle-aged aspects, and oh, I was so blind to so much. The great poet William Blake, he has his Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience, where he took many of the same poems and wrote them as a young man and then rewrote them and just the difference is amazing. And so I think taking that as a view for a book for a character too is, as immersion for us older readers, but kind of getting us to step back and look and re-examining how we saw things as a young person versus how we see things now, I think is going to be a powerful tool.
And hopefully we do it well. And again, hopefully it's not too heavy-handed and it's just something that kind of fits. Part of that was us both kind of looking at it and being like, we don't really want to mess with trying to get into the head of an 18-year-old. So we're just going to do something that's closer to us because we can rely on that. But there is some stuff that comes up in book 2 that when it came up, I was pretty pleased with it. This isn't really spoilers of any kind, but she ends up in a party with some people who are younger. And there are some words about don't you dare say that I could be your mother. But this thing happens. And one of the other characters comes forward and is like, I'm really sorry. I messed things up. And Tava's just like, it's fine. We'll just communicate better in the future. And the other one's like, you're not mad? She's like, no. You went through and you were doing the thing that we were supposed to be doing and a bad thing happened. And that's what happens. So there was just some simple stuff of I would not have been able to do that when I was 18 or in my 20s. Yeah. And it was fun to have some of that emotional regulation in there.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I love that as a concept. I think that kind of wisdom with age gets missed in a lot of, even something like Tolkien, where you have Gandalf, who, is nigh immortal, and even he still seems fairly flippant a lot of times, and that wisdom and weight that comes with experience is lacking in a lot of stories.
And hopefully we do it justice.
And, speaking as a parent, I was 28 when my daughter was born. And I can tell you that even if we were to go back to, 25 when my wife and I got married, I was not at a place mentally where I was responsible enough to handle taking care of a child. Certainly not going even further back to, 20 whenever we first started dating. There was no way that I would have been anywhere even remotely close to being at a stage where I could take care of a child. And, just looking back and looking at, all of the people that I knew from high school that, they graduated and then they married their high school sweetheart and they had kids like within a year or two of graduating high school, and is like, yeah, and now you're divorced and you hate each other. And it's like, yeah, because you weren't ready for that yet.
You weren't done cooking.
Yeah. I think we brought that up in our last episode where, the human brain doesn't finish maturing until about 25.
Yeah.
So,
and that's not to say that she's free of baggage. She certainly has some issues and some hangups on some stuff. Like, she really struggles with making decisions for a variety of reasons. But
I mean, she wouldn't be a believable character if she didn't have flaws.
Yeah. So it was interesting, and it was fun to be able to play some of, like, I don't have to worry about that. I can just have her be aware and focus on these kinds of things. And we really tried to make her a smart character. Like, early on, she gets into this new place and she's like, I'm going to try and reinvent myself and be the person that I want to be. And then she immediately dies. And she's like, okay, maybe I should just be the person that I am. So
that's a great lesson right there. That right there, you get to be someone else, you die.
Yep.
And then she goes back to Spawn Point, title of the book. I love it.
So one of the things that you brought up whenever we were talking while we were working on our scheduling issues.
Yeah.
I do want to make it perfectly clear that the scheduling issues were on our end and not Clark's end.
Yes.
Clark is a wonderful guest. He is not difficult to work with. We are difficult to work with. But one of the points that you brought up, that you proposed that we discuss, was bridging that gap between lit RPG and RPG. Talking a little bit about how to convert a story in lit RPG into something that is actionable at the table, or vice versa.
Yeah. And that's something that I have spent a fair bit of time thinking about. Haven't had much chance to really execute on it some, but I think there's a lot of room there for that kind of exploration. Because, like I said at the beginning, lit RPG is great for if that kind of situation of, I wish I could game more. So if you have a system that you really like and you're a writer, or a writer, getting a story with that system can be fantastic and very satisfying. And then you don't have to deal with the scheduling, and you can actually reach the end of the campaign arc without the group dissolving. So
What?
Yeah, that can be very satisfying, and vice versa, because you're actually building a rule system. You can build it where you're just building the rules loosely and just having enough so that you can make it lit RPG for a story. You can also have a fully functional RPG system that, if you wanted, you could lift and take to the table. Because it's what I do, and I was going crazy just working on nothing but the fiction, I did that with this system. I have ways of, like, okay, I can hack this other game system over here and modify these things, and we can basically play what's going on in New Eternity. There are things you have to pay attention to, right? Because the experience is different. So writing a lit RPG novel is most closely related to, I'm sure we have all had that GM who has the story in mind and is just taking you through the story.
Yeah.
They should just write that as a lit RPG and not inflict that on the other players.
I used to be that GM.
We all used to be that GM in one way or another.
That is a hard GM lesson to learn, is that you're a storyteller, but the players are making the story.
So, but yeah, if you're finding yourself in that position, or you play a campaign, I really wish it could have gone a different direction, you can write it as lit RPG.
I like that too, and I like that you're using you're not using Pathfinder, you're not using D&D for your mechanic systems. So lit RPGs is a good way as well, that if you're looking for a different mechanics system, you can kind of read and get a feel of how it's supposed to work and decide if that's something you want to bring to your table or not. And you can get more familiar with it through these wonderful immersive stories, and it's like, oh, this makes total sense. I want to use this role, or I want to use this system, or I want to blend this system with a system I already have. And I think this is a good way to introduce players to different things, or even GMs and DMs to different types of games that they might not be aware of otherwise.
Definitely for GMs and game designers. I have to think about it. I don't know that it's as good an introduction to specific systems for players, but it can be a very good introduction to role playing and working with a system to build out a type of character. Like that could definitely be a good guide, especially if you're jumping into something like Ascend Online, Viridian Gate Online, or even Dungeon Crawler Carl, right? Where you're watching them pay attention to these things and make these decisions. Yeah, it can teach players, oh, here's some stuff I should think about. So it can be good that way, but definitely for GMs and game designers, like great source of ideas for different mechanics and quirks.
So I just had a realization that there are early 2000s webcomics that would qualify as LitRPG.
Absolutely, yes.
Order of the Stick would qualify as LitRPG.
Yes.
Yeah, it took a minute of just soaking in it for that realization to click.
Yeah, no, I should have thought of that one too. But yeah, absolutely. An Order of the Stick they're still making comics apparently. So I was just checking on it a few weeks ago because I wanted to restart it, and there's new stuff out there. So if you've not seen Order of the Stick, it is an absolutely amazing. But yeah, again, a good lit RPG.
I remember having caught up at one point and being like, okay, it's been a while since he's updated. Why hasn't he updated? And then he posted the update that, oh, I fell through a glass coffee table and severed a tendon in my thumb, and I've been having to relearn how to write and draw.
Yeah.
Oh, yikes.
And that's why you haven't gotten any comics. And then once he finished enough of rehab, he was to a point where he's like one comic every other week because he could only hold the stylus for like 5 minutes at a time. And and I'm happy to hear that it's back up and going and that he has recovered from that.
Yeah. And you can also take LitRPG in the other direction, right? Again, inspiration for things at the table. Or if you have a LitRPG series that you really, really like, it's actually harder to go from a system you like to LitRPG because you have to make sure that you're not infringing on IP and all of that kind of thing. It's super easy to go from LitRPG to a campaign at your table.
Oh, yeah.
Because as long as it's not monetized, doesn't matter. You could take the exact plot beats. You could take the same big bad evil. You could take the same setting and just be like, this is all built. You guys play. Like,
no, I love that.
Absolutely do that.
It's not plagiarism. It's recycling.
Exactly. I was going to say another good, this would border on lit RPG. It's close, but Tale of the Manticore, again, where they tell the story and they go through, I think if it's not lit RPG, it is right up next to it. But again, it's that story with mechanics.
There is a lot of parallels between LitRPG and the solo play, actual play stuff.
The only thing that makes it a little fuzzy is that we have an external narrator.
Okay.
If the characters were aware of their stats and their health pools and stuff like that, 1000% LitRPG. Some people might consider it LitRPG as it is, but that one is a little fuzzy with some of the solo play. But if you had it be a thing where the characters are looking at their stats and saying, okay, with this kind of stuff, I really hope that this levels well, it didn't. Crap. So if you had characters commenting on like, I got really lucky on this level up, 3 stats went up by 1, right?
Nice.
Then that would be full on LitRPG for sure.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. And I love that breaking of the fourth wall. That is fun in so many different stories. And so I think that can just be a fun bit is like you're sitting there and instead of cursing the universe, you're cursing, the game master, the creator, like, no, or the dice or.
And that's part of why LitRPG is so interesting and fun to me. It's taking these things that in some places would be breaking the fourth wall. Like in Order of the Stick, it's breaking the fourth wall. But because with a lot of them, you're integrating it into the fabric of the world and of the universe, or you're framing it in such a way that it makes sense, you're able to do these kind of fourth wall detailed meta analysis stuff without it actually being you breaking the fourth wall.
Nice.
But that's me being nerdy about storytelling stuff. So
oh no, info dumping.
What nerds on this podcast?
No.
Never. But yeah, so when we're talking about, James brought up solo play RPGs, there are a lot of parallels between writing lit RPG and playing a solo game, especially solo journaling games. I know from our conversations you've been playing Ironsworn, And I've played several. Anamnesis is a great one. There's one in last year's Solo But Not Alone bundle that I really liked called Chill Out, which just used a standard deck of playing cards. And it was one of those games that it could remain completely mundane, but mine started to get kind of psychedelic trippy as I went through, just because that was the vibe that I was getting from what was going out. Like, I had deja vu coming in, I had entities that were not what they seemed, and owls ended up playing a very substantial part in this game. But I mean, Chill Out, the whole premise of the game is you're taking an overnight road trip. You're starting at 6 p.m. and you're driving through the night, and it ends at 6 a.m.
Okay.
And it's all of the weirdness that happens
whenever
you're driving across country at night.
Oh, I love it. That sounds like so much fun. I need to check that one out.
Yeah, it was great. It was an amazing game.
And I'm glad you brought that parallel up, because there's a non-zero number of places that when we were outlining or in the midst of the book that I used the Mythic GM emulator to make decisions. Because there were a couple spots of just, is this person here? I don't know. Let's roll it. No, they're not. We have to find a different way to do this.
Yeah, we've talked with John from Tale of the Manticore about the Mythic prompt system before.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's one of those things that I really need to get my hands on. I haven't gotten around to just getting a copy yet, but it's something that is certainly very helpful from a role-playing standpoint.
Yeah, so there's a lot of potential for overlap there as well.
I think, too, lit RPGs, especially if you've got younger authors, and they're learning, they're middle school, high school, early college, and they're cutting their teeth, and they hit that real bad point of writer's block. Doing a solo RPG, taking a game session that you really enjoyed and generating a lit RPG short story for it, I think would be a good way to kind of grease those wheels and get ideas rolling to kind of get past that block.
Yep. Using it to get unstuck, using it when you don't know what other people's motives are, using it when you have a random NPC that showed up that you don't know who they are, using it to make those decisions where it's like, I guess this could go either way, but I don't want it to feel too convenient. It can be a great tool for helping you work through your story, whether you're using it for lit RPG or not.
Yeah. So for those listening, we say the book is upcoming. When is the book going to be available and where?
Right. So it is currently available as of recording this. It is available on Amazon Kindle for pre-order, and the launch date is late October. I believe it is October 27th. I really should have looked that up before I sat down with you guys, but it is late October.
And there will be physical copies available at like Barnes & Nobles or Books A Million, correct?
I am not sure which stores and sites they're going to be distributing. It will definitely be available for physical on Amazon.
Okay, perfect.
But that's one of the things that I need to follow up on. And make sure I understand, because that's going to be where the company goes through their distribution. I believe they focus mainly on Amazon, but I could be wrong. And the only reason
I thought I saw a tag for being in, so I was like, yeah,
I think they're planning to get it as many places as they can. I just don't have a list of exactly where those places are. And the only reason the physical book isn't available on pre-order is because there's some finalization stuff that still needs to happen, because you have to have the page count and that kind of things before you can put it up there for pre-order.
Yeah.
And you said it's going to be October 27th, correct?
I believe so. Let's just take a second and I'll double check it. See, I lied. It is October 24th.
October 24th. Excellent.
It might end up coming out earlier than that, but it will be no later than October 24th.
So we have October 24th, book one, and you have said that this is going to be, in fact, a trilogy, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there are going to be 3 books. How much of a space do we know between book 1 and book 2?
So we are hoping between 1 and 2 months between book 1 and book 2, and same between book 2 and book 3. It's going to depend on a couple of factors, but we already have a complete version of book 2 written. We are almost done with a complete version of book 3. And it's going to be a matter of them deciding based on the market and stuff how they want to do the timing, and making sure that we get the final editing and proofreading and stuff done between those. So it's going to be a pretty rapid release between the 3. And these are hefty books too.
Nice. So we're not going to George R. Martin anybody and be like, hey, there's a story coming. 10 years later, crickets.
No, the full
Thank
trilogy
you.
will be out within a year unless things go
Awesome.
terribly wrong. And
I think
yeah.
it'll be less of a George Martin and more of a Pat Rothfuss.
Okay, perfect.
For that, of it was The Name of the Wind. It was supposed to be a trilogy, and was it the first 2 books came out, and then nothing has happened since?
Yeah.
No, we have all 3 books.
Excellent.
All 3 books are there.
Yeah.
And I realized that I don't know that I gave the pitch for book 1 because I have my really quick elevator pitch that I can give.
Pitch it.
Go
We've
ahead.
talked about it and here and there, but
I failed as a host by not prompting it. So,
and I just got excited and started talking as I am wont to do. But Spawn Point is a fantasy lit RPG novel, and Tafa is 40 years old, and it is her last chance at immortality. Now, if she takes the leap and can beat the odds, and there's a substantial chance that she can't, she will be able to enter the singularity and start a new life as an immortal within the singularity. And the world that she finds, she can start having adventures and start getting her character class, undergoing quests, ends up getting her own bloodthirsty vine beast companion, who is a ton of fun to write. The problem with all of this is the world she's in should be teeming with other players, but she's alone.
Ooh.
And she shouldn't be. And she has to figure out why. And that's book 1.
Very interesting. Server crash. I like it. Oh, that was always, I mean, the complete aside, but like in WoW, when the servers would crash, you'd have like that 10 minutes where the world was empty, and it'd just be like, this is weird. Yeah, so those were my questions. I did want to make sure that we got when the books were going to be released and when and where they were going to be available. So
yeah, so at the latest, we're hoping to have all 3 books out by early 2026.
awesome.
And depending on how this series goes, we have rough plans for up to 9 books, but we're really going to see how Trilogy 1 is received before we start on Trilogy 2.
Perfect.
And I'm assuming that this publisher is going through probably one of the larger distributors. If that is the case, then listeners, you can go to your public library and request that they buy copies of it.
You could. That would be awesome. Please send me
An excellent
pictures.
idea.
Like,
Go request that your library buy copies of it so that they can put it into distribution, into
if it ends
circulation.
on the bookshelf at your library, please take pictures and send it to me at crrowenson.com. That would
excellent. Yes.
That would make my month. That would be amazing.
Speaking as the spouse of a librarian, go and do that.
I'm going to make a note that I need to go do that once the book comes out.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that brings us pretty much to the end of where we had planned on going with the interview portion. One thing that we like doing with our guests, one thing that we have done with you once before, is a section that we call the Monster Mashup, where we roll some dice on our random table and we make a monster on the fly. So,
Love
Clark,
this stuff so much.
if you are ready and willing,
Mm-hmm.
let's go ahead and get right into it and start off with a D4 roll for locomotion.
All right. That is a 2.
A 2. It runs.
Okay.
Runs, all right.
We got some fast stuff going. I like it.
All right. And then next up is a D6 roll for what does it eat?
Another 2.
Another 2. It eats plants.
Okay.
All right.
We've got an herbivore. I like it.
I mean, it's not falling into the fantasy realm quite yet because
We've got a bun.
I mean,
It eats at least plants.
Yeah.
At least plants.
at least plants, yes. It could be an omnivore. That is
We
true.
really need to do an odd even roll to see if we want to go fluffy or nightmare fuel with a lot of these. But
I mean, it's me, so it's probably going to be dark and a little horrific. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I probably need to expand that and have it be a D8 table and have on an 8 you re-roll twice and combine them.
oh, nice. Yes, that'd be fun.
So
Yeah,
that
that would
way
be
we
good.
could actually get some omnivores in there because I just realized that we don't have that option at present.
Oh, okay.
Things I can do off the air.
With your ample free time.
With my copious spare time. Okay, so next up is another D6 roll for size.
Guess what? Another 2.
Another 2. It is small.
Okay.
Again, we're rolling a bun. I love it.
Well, a rabbit would be tiny. Small is between 2 and 4 feet.
Okay.
So dog, medium dog.
Yeah,
Sure.
so like a goat. We're making a
goat.
goat. Which
Yeah.
reminds me, as of recording today, Grant Howitt just released a new game. I think it's called Big Goat, Little Goat.
Yeah, I
Where
was seeing that. Is it Dice version of Goat Simulator?
it kind of seems that way.
I love it.
I saw it and I immediately had to buy it. I immediately picked it up. So you have the big goat who uses a D12 and the little goat that uses a D4. And so all things that require like strength and intimidation, when you roll the dice, you roll high. And whenever you're going for like sneak and subterfuge, you roll low. And during character creation, you specifically make aspects of the two goats that are polar opposites of one another.
Oh, I love this.
And they have objectives for the game like steal candy from a baby or wear yet another cool hat.
It's Untitled Goat Game.
Or summon the Dark Prince Baphomet. You know, things like that. We're getting off track.
Yes.
This does not have to be a goat.
No, I'm still happy with Untitled Goat Game because I loved Untitled Goose Game. So Chaos Goat, come on, Chaos Goat.
Okay, so next up, this is where we're going to start really fleshing things out. Next up is a D8 roll for social organization.
Okay, not a 2. We got a 4 this time.
A 4. Okay, so this
I was worried they were all going to be 2s.
This is going to be a family grouping, so matriarch plus patriarch and offspring.
Okay. Herd of Chaos Goats. I like it.
Not a herd.
Yeah, just a family
They are
unit.
family units.
Okay.
So yeah, that does bring us into
Pygmy
an
elephants.
interesting space because you tend to have family units in more intelligent creatures.
Yeah.
As opposed to, herd animals tend to be notably less intelligent.
Yeah.
Speaking as a farm boy, herd animals are notably less intelligent.
Yes.
They have a
Yeah,
collective.
we're in pygmy elephant territory here.
Ooh, pygmy elephants would be kind of cool. They look like those cyclops. Yeah, I like it. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that gives us a good springboard to come off of.
Good pachyderm, get some heavy skin. Yeah, I like that.
All right, so this is going to shape it a lot. Next is going to be a D10 roll for native environment.
7.
It lives in the hills.
Again, depending on the type of hill, pygmy elephant would still work.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, the plant growth isn't going to be super dense. They could either eat shrubs or shorter trees, lower limbs. Be something like a hippopotamus too, and they could like hit the rivers and stuff as well.
Well, and you can have fairly lush hills, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're on the rain side of a mountain range. So yeah, okay. So what's next?
Next up is a D12 roll for method of defense.
9.
It has a spear limb. I mean,
A spear limb. Okay.
it sounds like tusks to me, but
Or if it could harden the tip of the trunk.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
yeah.
I like this. Yeah, no, yeah.
Please throw fantastical elements in here and pull me away from just making an elephant.
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
We're just waiting on some of the last stuff.
Yeah, some of the crazy stuff that's going to come up, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking, so you have the pygmy elephants were found around Sicily, so I'm kind of thinking that, and so they have that spear limb. What if it was like a rocky or even a bony protuberance off of that edge? So like, instead of just a full trunk, maybe like a third tusk kind of runs, but yeah, so that trunk would be a more dexterous, but definitely get some stabby pokey stuff. And that could also be how it could use it to shovel up plants or to get stuff from I like that.
Okay. Yeah, that'll work. That would work.
And again, if we're giving it some at least basic intelligence, because we're saying this more than it could be mischievous just out of pure spite, or it could be, depending on how social it wants to be, it could like its space and therefore actively try to drive things and people away to keep its territory clear.
And, we brought up the idea that it doesn't eat just plants.
Yeah.
So, that spear limb, that could be used for things like tearing open rotting logs to get to grubs. That can be tearing open termite mounds, That can be... There are a lot of shifting towards omnivore ideas because, typically in the animal kingdom, the more intelligent animals tend to be more omnivorous. I mean, there are certainly exceptions. I don't think that elephants are omnivores, but they are very intelligent. But that increased protein intake does tend to lend to a higher average intelligence of the animal.
I like
Yeah.
it. We could also, with going intelligence, maybe they have a rudimentary agriculture and they can use that spear limb to hunt like gophers and stuff and like literally just spear them out of the ground when they're trying to get into their gardens.
Yeah, I really like the idea of a kind of prehensile trunk, even if it's not a nose, but something that sort of prehensile limb that ends in some sort of spade or spear or some kind of hardened bone segment. There's a lot that they could do with that.
Yeah.
And we don't
even if it
necessarily
came
have
up like a
to keep
scorpion tail.
Well, and that's what I was initially
Okay.
thinking, but I like the idea of it. Actually, it might have both. It might have a prehensile nose and a prehensile tail because depending on if this is prey, that's a kind, like caterpillars do, where they make it so the birds don't know which one is the head end.
Okay, I like that.
And making it prehensile makes sense for them living in hills, especially if they are a stockier sort of animal. The ability to like grab trees and help pull themselves up hillsides or ease themselves down hillsides so that they don't slip and fall.
Yeah, I like that. I can also see them using like the tail as like a plow and just dragging it behind them to make furrows for, again, if they're doing like an ag. No, I like that a lot. Or even building like a trap for other prey or anything like that. No, I like that.
Okay, so here comes the point where we might just screw up everything that we have been working on.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Next is a D12 for creature type.
3.
Interesting. It is a celestial.
Oh. I think this can still work because as a celestial, I mean, if it's on our plane, it can have some flexibility of form.
So what are the defining features of a celestial in terms of creature form? Like what do we need to do to make it feel celestial?
I remember from our dive into Planescape, like 2nd edition Planescape, that there were these elephant-like creatures called the Baku, which I think are originally from Japanese mythology, possibly Filipino. I can't remember. It's been a little while. it has been a long time since I've read anything on it, but they were basically sapient, short-trunked elephants that were capable of wielding weapons and stuff with their trunks.
So I guess what I'm wondering is like, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say the Celestials are generally going to be forces of good and or retribution.
That's what I was thinking. So they're going to have goals beyond just mundane survival.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you mentioned something about agriculture. That could be kind of interesting. What if they are kind of like, not necessarily a spirit, but kind of a creature about rebirth and tending to growth and planting? So that's what they do, is they're literally creating furrows and making places for seeds and stuff like that. Like they could literally be meant to kind of sustain ecosystems, which borders, I know, a bit closer potentially to Fae, but if we make them so that it's a positive thing and less of a tricksy thing, that could work.
No, I like that. These could be teachers. Like these could be the creatures or the spirits that taught people agriculture and irrigation.
Yeah. Even if they didn't teach it, we learned it by watching them.
Yeah. Another aspect that you commonly see with celestial creatures is that they are basically the servants of good aligned deities. You see that a lot. And so it would make sense that these creatures were sent down to the material plane by a god of agriculture or a god of nature or something along those lines, sent down for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
I like this too.
I like it.
And if there was like a particular field or hill side that was deemed divine or holy, these would make some fairly impressive temple guards as well.
Yeah, and
we have a role where we determine intelligence, or do we just get to decide that?
We just get to decide that.
Yeah.
Because something that popped into my head, this is really weird, because now we have like this pygmy elephant about the size of a dog that looks symmetrical from both ends with this weird spade trunk / spade tail. But what if they are kind of like a Johnny Appleseed type of thing, where they actually have like gear with a variety of seeds, and that can be one of the interactions with them, is if you can give them seeds they don't have, they might give you a boon.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Now, sentient is one of the quirks on the D20 quirks table.
Okay.
So,
But what if they're like crows and you can hand them seeds and they'll trade for something else? So like you have a lot of the farmers markets, the seed trades. What if
Seed
they're
swaps,
living
yeah.
seed trades? Yeah. What if they're a living seed swap?
Yeah.
And the thing is, they don't have to be sentient in order to do that.
Yeah.
They
Right.
just have to be intelligent.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And
No, I love it.
they're just basically following their divine orders. They're
Right.
they're following their coding,
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
as it were.
Right. Especially if you're looking into temporary divine boons. That
Yeah.
can just be a thing that they do is you gift them with something. It doesn't matter if you're a person, if you're a crow, whatever. Like they tap you with the trunk and you have this boon for a time. Like they could be pretty stupid and still do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right. So speaking of the D20 quirks table, let's
Dun,
go
dun,
ahead
dun.
and roll a D20 on the quirks table and see what we get.
A natural 20.
A natural 20 is rolled twice on this chart.
Ooh.
That is a 7 and an 8.
7 is, possess silk producing spinnerets.
I like it.
Okay.
Maybe that's how they hold the seeds or they distribute the seeds. They put little silk pouches.
Uh-huh.
And 8 is autonomy. Limbs can break off for escape and they grow back, usually.
That would be perfect for the trunks.
Yes, it really is.
Oh, I love it. Okay. These are really weird little things. I like them.
And I'm wondering, so they have this silk-like spinnerets, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
What if you've ever bought plant bulbs, right? Where they have the seed packed in dirt and wrapped with
Yeah.
nutrients and wrapped in stuff. What if they're doing that? Like they're going
Okay,
about,
yeah.
they're actually creating these little seed bulbs and that's what they're dropping in places.
I like it.
And that could even be a thing that they give characters, right? You come across them and they just hand you some of these plant bulbs and then wander off. You're like, okay.
No, I love that. And I think going with the theme of this, if it breaks off one of the prehensile limbs, I'd say after maybe like 3 days or a week, like a mushroom spore or a seed thing, it will just rupture and throw wildflowers everywhere around it.
Yeah, I love that.
Or, it ends up basically ossifying and it becomes like agricultural tools, like
Oh.
primitive agricultural tools.
Nice. Okay.
That would also be that.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm not going to take that to a dark place, I promise. But that could be interesting because if you could potentially shape the tool before it ossifies. That would also be very cool.
Yeah.
Either way, maybe
I
the
would
trunk
be-
does one and the tail does another.
With the other, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, where we talked about the tail being dragged behind it like a plow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the protrusion on the tail is more spade-like,
Yeah.
whereas the one on the trunk is more spine-like.
Okay, yeah.
Mhm. Similar
I like
enough that it would confuse predators, but yeah.
Different function. Yeah, no, I like it.
Okay, so now we make it weird.
Oh, we haven't been doing that? Okay.
No, not yet. No. We've been nice so far.
So, Clark, please give me a D100 roll.
All right. 78. 7 and 8 again.
78. This is fun. Is attracted to music and will follow around any tune.
Oh yeah, this is absolutely. So you have villages that have festivals to bring these things in around planting season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Potentially, that could even be a whole thing where you try and get them to do some of the crop planting to get a more
Yeah.
bountiful harvest, right? You give them
Yeah.
a bunch of the seeds and then you lead them through the fields with the music, and
Yeah.
those fields do better. And
Yeah.
at some
And-
point, they'll get bored and wander off. So you just.
And given that they have these spinnerets that they are wrapping the seeds in, the silk of a celestial creature is bound to be infused with, positive energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's going to grow better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Well,
I
even
love
say
that.
people taking some of this extra and they turning it and also to a textile market for whatever temple or
Yeah.
maybe for their leaders in town or whatever too.
These
And plus,
creatures
people are bringing
are.
this thing seeds and it's bopping them with a bless spell or whatever that's going to be. So yeah, I mean, this is like a huge yearly festival with they're having like Lollapalooza or Woodstock to bring these elephants in.
And everybody's very attached to the family that
Family,
roams
yeah.
in the area.
And I can totally see that there is a group of priests in the religion attached to this particular deity who their one and only job is to play music as like traveling minstrels and once a year lead this family of creatures through all of the outlying villages to make sure that every village gets their turn.
I love bard
Mhm.
clerics.
I can
Oh my god, I
absolutely
love these
see
things
that.
so much. They're in my mind, they're odd looking, but they're very cute, and this is just very wholesome. I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we thought we were going dark today.
I restrained myself.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and do the second roll because we always do 2. 4. Gotta scroll way back up here to the top of the list. 4. Okay, interesting. Can taste through its limbs.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
I like it.
Yeah, it can taste the soil and knows whether it has the right nutrients and all of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
I mean, honestly, like one among the spells I could get is something like a wild growth, or maybe something to like if the ground's too dry to create water or destroy water if it's too wet. So it's I love it.
Well, I mean, plant growth is a druid
Yeah.
spell.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, there's so
No, I
many
love
ways
these
that you could
things.
interact with these creatures because there's the festival, but it could also be a thing where if you know they roam in the region and you found like a new plant, you might just give them the seeds and just follow them until they plant it so you can figure out what type of soil and environment that plant
Yeah.
would do well in.
Yeah,
I like that too.
absolutely.
Or if you're like wandering and you're having a hard time finding, maybe here it's more desertified or it's more arid and dry, and then you come across where a family of these things are just wandering. It's like a little mobile oasis with them.
Yeah, and that could be differences in the species, right? Where
Yeah.
some of them are more designed to be sort of a mobile oasis because they're in a very hostile environment. There might be ones that are designed to find places where it's supposed to go. Yeah, that could be really fun. And that
Yeah, I
could
like
be a
these
really
things.
fun through line, like just in a continent, right? Where
Yeah.
you're on the West Coast and they have a particular shade and they give a particular boon. And then you're in the deserts in the mountain range and they're a different shade and pattern and give you a different boon. And that would just be a really sweet thing that
Yeah.
you could bring up over and over again with your players. I love it.
All right. So let's go ahead and recap what we've got. So it runs, it feeds on plants, it is small in size, it has a family organization, so 2 parents and the offspring. Hills are its native habitat. It has a spear limb, which we have sort of gone into 2 limbs, one sort of more spear-like and one more shovel-like. It is a celestial creature type. It has silk-producing spinnerets. It has autonomy, so it can break off its limbs and they will regrow. It is attracted to music and will follow any tune, and it can taste through its limbs. So now we have the hardest question of all.
Oh.
What do we call it?
I have no clue.
Yeah.
These little bundles of whimsy. What are we?
Yeah.
What are we gonna name them?
Pygmy planters?
That's good. Scientific name agriderms.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Yes.
I mean, those are both pretty solid.
Yeah.
What
I like
else?
agriderm.
Yeah, no, I like pygmy planters and agriderms. Those are
Yeah, I think those are both right on the nose.
boom,
Yeah.
first try.
Works
Ooh.
for me.
Perfect. Wow.
Works for me. Okay.
I want to play with some of these things.
Right? They just seem like fun. They just seem
I
like
just
a
want to
good
see
time.
him like draped with a bunch of like, colorful cloth and ribbons, kind of like maybe like a May festival type thing.
Mhm.
And people are like tying ribbons to their trunks as they walk through the field, and they're just like bright and colorful and happy.
And seeing them like running around with the kids and stuff, right?
Yeah, like have you ever seen the videos of like the baby elephants trying to play with people and they're like running
Yeah.
around and rolling? Yeah, I want to see.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see. That's what I want out of life.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So as we wrap up here, we are going to have a link for Clark's book in the show notes where you can go and pre-order it. Is there anywhere else that you would like to send people to for any of your other projects?
Absolutely. So the best ways to stay updated, that is my newsletter and my Patreon, which you can find me at CR Rowenson on Patreon or crrowenson.com. Sign up for my newsletter. I am planning on getting back into YouTube. It's been nothing but this trilogy for like a year and a half. So the Magic Engineer is another good place, but currently the best places to stay up to date are my newsletter through crrowenson.com and my Patreon.
Excellent.
Well, Clark, thank you for coming on and chatting with us today. It's been amazing. I always love hanging out and chatting with you. So
It's been a lot
Thank
of
you
fun,
for
yeah.
having me. It's always a blast.
And thank you everyone for listening. If you have any comments, suggestions, or ideas, please send us an email undercommontaste@gmail.com or come and join us on our Discord. You can find a link to our Discord as well as all of our other social media, which I think I need to update because I think it still has our Twitter link. And we deleted our Twitter account months ago.
Yeah.
But you can find all of that at undercommontaste.com. You can also find links there to our Patreon, patreon.com/undercommontaste, or our itch store, undercommontaste.itch.io.
If this is your first time listening, we're very happy you found us. You can find our other episodes. You can search Undercommon Taste on your podcatcher of choice. Also, on Mondays and Thursdays, or Tuesdays and Thursdays, rather, you can join me at twitch.tv/Undercommon Taste. On Tuesdays, I am playing Darkest Dungeons, and on Thursdays, I am playing through the RPG classic Neverwinter Nights.
Ooh, nice.
Stay safe, everyone, and we will see you again in 2 weeks. I think we are going to be going into our oddball dragons from old editions of D&D.
Oh, fun stuff. Happy gaming.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Undercommon Taste. Our theme song is Massacre Anne, written and performed by Mary Kroll and used with permission. You can find Mary online at marykroll.bandcamp.com or on Patreon at patreon.com/Dr. Mary C. Kroll. Our logo is by David Sutherland. You can find more of David's work on deviantart.com/David Sutherland or on instagram.com/Willex_73. We'll be back in 2 weeks, so stay safe and we'll see you then.